Why was the double-bladed lightsaber so effective? The primary purpose of the double-bladed lightsaber was to allow for a faster rate of attack. Saber staffs were also excellent defensive weapons, as the doubled length of the weapon provided more surface area for deflecting and parrying. It also possessed a great psychological impact. The dual blades increased the visual impact of the weapon, and in combat, opponents would intuitively try to track both blades separately, which would cause them to become overwhelmed. However, despite all of the advantages offered by this weapon, its weaknesses were equally obvious. Special training was required to wield this weapon effectively. A user needed patience and discipline to truly master this weapon. Rushing through training or not fully understanding the weapon's nuances could result in the user harming themselves. In order to twist the double-bladed lightsaber around one's body, the user would need to spin and twist in a way that would open them up to other types of attacks, in particular force attacks. The large hilt was necessary so that the user could twist the blade around with both hands, but it also created a larger target for more experienced lightsaber users to strike at. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Why was the lightsaber whip one of the most dangerous weapons in the galaxy? The lightsaber whip was wielded in the same manner as a proper whip. The lightsaber whip was a rare and exotic weapon. Similar to the double-bladed lightsaber, the light whip was difficult to master. Special training was required to wield the weapon effectively, and a user needed patience and discipline to truly master this weapon. Light whips had a much greater range than lightsabers. The wielder would enjoy a considerable amount of leverage over their opponent. They could attack from several meters away. The weapon was also difficult to defend against, as it could simply flex around an opponent's blade when he attempted to parry. When multiple tassels were included, the whip was able to overwhelm the defenses of enemies by attacking them from all sides. Vernestra Rwoh and Lumaya were known light whip users. The light whip did have a downside. It needed to be swung wide to gain momentum for an attack, which left its user open to a speed force attack. It was also difficult to use defensively and in close quarters. Would you ever consider using a light whip over a lightsaber? Leave me a comment. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Is it possible that the Kyber crystal in Luke's green lightsaber is the same one from Qui-Gon Jinn's? After defeating Darth Maul, Obi-Wan Kenobi might have kept his master's Kyber crystal as a memento. The Jedi are not known for keeping personal items or keepsakes, but perhaps Obi-Wan felt the need. After Order 66, the Empire is in complete control. They destroy numerous Jedi artifacts. The Empire also harvested a lot of Kyber crystals for the construction of the Death Star and other various projects. This would have made it a lot more difficult for Luke to find another Kyber crystal, but we do know that he returns to Tatooine to complete the construction of his new lightsaber. He likely returned to Ben Kenobi's home for lightsaber components and instructions. Here he would find a green Kyber crystal, the one that Obi-Wan had saved from years past. That very Kyber crystal could have been Qui-Gon Jinn's. What do you think? Leave me a comment and be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each lightsaber color has a meaning? The blue lightsaber is one of the most common lightsabers seen in Star Wars. During Legends, it was the Jedi Guardians who would wield the blue lightsaber. They preferred to focus on their lightsaber combat skills, as they were often forced into aggressive negotiations with Sith warriors. Guardians spent most of their time patrolling the galaxy on peacekeeping missions, which often put them in dangerous situations. Thus, it was important for them to fortify their martial arts abilities. Blue lightsabers represent sincerity, truth, and calmness, all very important traits for peacekeeping. The most well-known users of the blue lightsaber were Anakin Skywalker, Master Dooku, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Master Plo Koon. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each lightsaber color has a meaning? In Legends, green lightsabers were usually wielded by Jedi consulars. These Jedi were often more in tune with the cosmic force rather than their own fighting ability. A Jedi consular preferred to use non-violent methods to keep the peace. Once engaged in a fight, these Jedi preferred to use force attacks alongside their lightsaber combat skills. Green lightsabers represented serenity, hope, and wisdom, all important traits for teachers, seers, and healers. The most well-known users of the green lightsaber were Qui-Gon Jinn, Master Yoda, and Kit Fisto. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each lightsaber color has a meaning? The orange lightsaber is extremely rare in Star Wars. This color is for those who are passionate fighters. The orange color can be a result of a failure to completely bleed a Kyber crystal red, or it might indicate a Jedi that is not firmly committed to the light side of the Force. In canon, there's also something known as Colon Kyber, or Fool's Kyber, which is colored orange. Orange Kyber is created by mixing the traits associated with yellow Kyber and red Kyber. The most well-known users of the orange lightsaber are Cal Kestis, Baylan Skoll, and Shin Hati. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each lightsaber color has a meaning? Purple lightsabers were very rare by the time of the Clone Wars. It took a very special personality and force attunement to harvest a purple Kyber crystal. This Jedi would need to be firmly committed to the light side of the Force, but also unafraid to tap into the dark side. Purple Kyber is created by mixing the traits associated with blue and red. Purple lightsabers represent power, mystery, and devotion, all very important traits for Jedi seeking a balance between the light side and the dark side of the Force. The most well-known users of a purple lightsaber were Vernestra Rwoh, Kelleran Beck, Mara Jade Skywalker, and Mace Windu. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each lightsaber color has a meaning? The red lightsabers are used by the Sith. In Legends, red Kyber crystals could be found naturally occurring, but were often synthetic synthetic. In canon, the red lightsaber can only be produced through a very unnatural method called bleeding. The user would force the Kyber crystal to bleed by channeling their dark side emotions into the crystal itself. This was a ritual practiced by the Sith. Red lightsabers represented passion, violence, and anger, which allowed them to easily tap into the dark side of the Force. The most well-known users of the red lightsaber were Darth Vader, Darth Sidious, and Darth Maul. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each lightsaber color has a meaning? The white lightsaber is a rarity in Star Wars. It stands in direct opposition to the red lightsaber. To turn a Kyber crystal white, a Force user must purify a bleeding crystal by channeling the lights of the Force back into that crystal. The white lightsaber color represents purity and the absence of corruption. Ahsoka Tano is the only known user of a white lightsaber. She was exiled from the Jedi Order but later found to be innocent. She then chose to walk her own path, away apart from the Jedi. She also has a strong association with the daughter who represents the light side of the Force. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each lightsaber color has a meaning? Yellow lightsabers were used by Jedi Sentinels. These were some of the most powerful Force users in the Jedi Order. They were skilled in lightsaber combat and very powerful Force wielders. A good balance between fighting and calling upon the Force. The yellow lightsaber represented energy and creativity, which allowed these Jedi to pursue a wide range of specialized Force techniques. The most well-known users of the yellow lightsaber were the Grand Inquisitor, Bastila Shan, and Rey Skywalker. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content.
It's like over, Scoob. I have the high ground.
Have you heard of the lightsaber principle called Sokan? In Legends, Sokan was a principle of lightsaber combat rather than a form of lightsaber combat. Sokan teaching revolved around using the environment itself to gain a tactical advantage. Sokan had two well-known maneuvers. High ground defense involves using the terrain to put your opponent at a disadvantage. The most notable use of this was when Obi-Wan had the high ground against Anakin Skywalker. Unhindered charge was when the user used the Force to supersede difficult terrain and directly charge an opponent. Sokan involved maneuvering so that the swift strokes of the lightsaber could be aimed towards the opponent's vital areas, using quick tumbles, jumps, and other movements. If possible, it was recommended for practitioners to use this style in their home ground or on a familiar terrain. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Was Lord Baylan using Dunmok during his duel with Ahsoka? Baylan is not a Sith Lord. He's also no longer a Jedi. He's lost his faith. Baylan seems to be a character seeking a new way. He's clearly embraced elements of the dark side of the Force. He taught his apprentice how to use Force Choke, and both of their lightsabers have drifted away from their original color, which seems to indicate that they're leaning more into the dark side than they are into the light. There are moments where we can see the light in Baylan. He's more of a gray Jedi than anything else. During his duel with Ahsoka, it became very clear that he was using dark side techniques to keep Ahsoka unbalanced. His goal was to completely dominate Ahsoka's spirit by taunting and exposing her inner weaknesses in order to erode Ahsoka's will to fight on. He mocked her master and he insinuated that she was to blame for Anakin's downfall. Ahsoka survived Order 66. She was trained by the greatest Jedi of all time. She is powerful, yet Baylan saw her self-doubt and he used it against her. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Have you heard of the lightsaber technique called Jar-Kai? In Legends, Jar-Kai was originally a style of swordplay that utilized dual blades. A similar dual-bladed technique, referred to as Naiman, eventually was developed into Form 6, whereas Jar-Kai was more broadly associated with just using two lightsabers. Within the technique Jar-Kai, there were two well-known attack styles, Twin Strike and Rising Whirlwind. Twin Strike was a dual-wielding strike, where the user simultaneously swung both lightsabers towards an opponent for an extra strong attack. Both lightsabers would meet the target at the same time. Rising Whirlwind was a maneuver that involved swinging the lightsabers around a person's body so that they could create a brilliant whirlwind effect. It should be noted that the fourth form of lightsaber combat, Ataru, was also known to employ dual blades as a part of its training regime. Ahsoka Tano was a master of this form when she was only a Padawan, an accomplishment that some Jedi Masters would have serious trouble achieving. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each of the 7 lightsaber forms had their own unique attacks? In Legends, Form 1 Chi-Cho had 2 unique attacks, Disarming Slash and Sarlacc Sweep. Disarming Slash was a strike directed at the opponent's weapon in an attempt to rip it out of their grasp or to destroy the weapon completely. Sarlacc Sweep was a wide, sweeping attack that allowed the duelist to strike against multiple enemies at once. Form 1 is the oldest and most elementary form of lightsaber combat. Master Kit Fisto was well known for having complete mastery over this form and used it during the Battle of Geonosis. This form was not best for lightsaber to lightsaber combat and was mostly used for defense. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each of the 7 lightsaber forms had unique attacks? In Legends, Form 2, Makashi, had 2 unique attacks, Contentious Opportunity and Makashi Riposte. Contentious Opportunity was a tactic that recognized and exploited an opening in the opponent's defense before swiftly moving to strike the exposed opponent. The Makashi Riposte was a defensive technique that allowed the duelist to slightly alter the angle of an opponent's attack in order to make a quick and decisive counterstrike. strike. Form 2, also known as the contention form, relied on balance and complicated footwork to outsmart an opponent. While using Form 2, many duelists used only one hand so that they could use the other hand to direct a counter-strike with the Force. Count Dooku was a master of Form 2 and taught this form to Asajj Ventress. Ki-Adi-Mundi was also a master of this form and taught it to other Jedi at the temple. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each of the 7 lightsaber forms had unique attacks? In Legends Form 3, Soresu had 2 unique maneuvers, Circle of Shelter and Deflecting Slash. Circle of Shelter was a technique that allowed the duelist to create a protected area around themselves and their allies. This made it more difficult for the enemy to penetrate a user's defenses. The Deflecting Slash was a defensive maneuver that allowed the duelist to deflect an enemy's projectile towards another target while simultaneously slashing at an adjacent angle. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a master of Soresu. It was said that he knew the form so well that he could block almost any strike. He was also proficient in the Circle of Shelter, as he was often seen creating it around Queen Amidala and others. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each of the 7 lightsaber forms had unique attacks? In Legends Form 4, Ataru had 2 unique maneuvers, Hawk-Bat Swoop and Saber Swarm. Hawk-Bat Swoop was a strike that allowed a duelist to quickly strike their opponent without giving them a chance to react. This attack could end a fight before it ever started. The Saber Swarm attack was used to direct numerous short strikes against your opponent. It was an attempt to overwhelm the opponent and keep them guessing as to where the next strike would come from. Using this attack would often keep your opponent on the defensive. Form 4 relied heavily on speed, agility, strength, and force-assisted acrobatics, which allows its user to go on the offensive. Before the fall of the Republic, both Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn used Form 4 with great mastery. In Revenge of the Sith, Yoda displays his excellence with the Ataru style while fighting Darth Sidious. Ataru is not a fighting method that can or should be used by novices of the Force. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each of the 7 lightsaber forms had unique attacks? In Legends Form 5, Xian and Jim-So had 4 unique maneuvers, Barrier of Blades, Falling Avalanche, Fluid Riposte, and Xian Deflection. Barrier of Blades defended the user from blaster fire and even redirected that fire back at the attackers. The Falling Avalanche attack was an overhand power blow that crashed down upon an opponent with incredible force. Fluid Riposte was a smooth transition from parrying an attack to a counterstrike. The Xian Deflection allowed the duelist to simultaneously deflect weapon fire and leap towards an opponent. Xian, the classic form of Variant 5, is mainly used in combat that takes place at a distance, like deflecting shots from a blaster, while Jim-So was specifically designed for lightsaber-to-lightsaber combat. Practitioners of Form 5 included Aayla Secura, Adi Gallia, Plo Koon, Luke Skywalker, and most notably Anakin Skywalker. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each of the 7 lightsaber forms had unique attacks? In Legends Form 6, Nyman had 2 unique attacks, Draw Closer and Pushing Slash. The Draw Closer attack consisted of the duelist using the Force to seize an opponent and then pull them into the path of their lightsaber. This could take an opponent that was far away and bring them in for some close combat or a finishing blow. The Pushing Slash attack would consist of the duelist slashing an opponent and then blasting them aside with the Force. This would allow the duelist to use his opponent's body against other opponents. Form 6 was much more of a combination of the previous forms. It's a form that attempts to centralize the fighting techniques. A Jedi would need to have mastery over the previous 5 forms in order to combine them and move between them. Users of this form were easily able to employ force-based combat directly alongside the form. Traditionally, Nyman practitioners used 2 lightsaber blades. Obi-Wan Kenobi studied this form during his time as a Padawan with Qui-Gon Jinn. Anakin Skywalker also studied this form in an attempt to master all the forms. Masters Yoda and Windu were also proficient in this form. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content. Did you know that each of the 7 lightsaber forms had unique attacks? In Legends, Form 7 had 4 unique attacks, Assured Strike, Vornsker's Ferocity, Swift Flank, and Tempered Aggression. Assured Strike allowed the user to trade sheer power for a near certainty of landing a hit. Vornsker's Ferocity involved ferociously attacking an opponent. Swift Flank allowed the user to leap around an opponent to make a quick strike. This was a speed-based maneuver that was intended to catch your opponent off guard. Tempered Aggression was something that light side users would employ in the Vapad variant. This allowed them to have more control over their emotions and helped to prevent them from falling to the dark side. Numerous Sith Lords used Form 7 to overwhelm their opponents. Very few Jedi could master Form 7 without falling to the dark side. Mace Windu is known for creating the variation Vapad, which he taught to his apprentice, Jedi Master Depa Billaba. Be sure to follow for more Star Wars content.